Welcome to Spiritual But, a one-of-a-kind talk show creating a new global conversation about inclusive spirituality. Whether you're religious or not religious, this show seeks to inspire you to discover your own unique spiritual experience. And now, here is your host, award-winning author and actress, Anne Scottlin.
Hello and welcome back to I'm Spiritual But. So excited to have you here today and thank you for joining us again. Please do like and subscribe on whatever platform you're watching, and so we can keep this coming to you every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific and 12 noon Eastern. I'm Spiritual But is a show about inclusive spirituality. It's a show that brings a new global conversation to the table where we can talk about what it means to be spiritual, regardless of our different persuasions, and how my many guests experience spirituality in their own journey. And even if you don't like the word spirituality, this is still the place for you because, as you know, the show is called I'm Spiritual But. So what does that look like for different people, whether you're religious or not religious? But mostly we just focus on making everyone welcome. It's inclusive. And we're not trying to teach you anything that you don't want to know. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're not putting pressure. We're just saying, let's have a chat about what's working for other people, what has brought their spirituality to the next level. So thank you for joining us. Now, I'm super excited because I've been looking forward to our guest today, Alessandro Ferullo, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about him right now. He is an Italian gentleman. He had an adventurous childhood. An Italian boy, grew up living in all over the countries, many countries of the world, including Indonesia, Italy, Tanzania. See, I'm going to have to ask him how they say that in UK British, but we say Tanzania, Yugoslavia, Turkey, and the UK, all by the ages of 9. Wow, that's one way to start seeing the world. And he now lives in London, and he has a degree in therapeutic massage and has been a Qigong practitioner and teacher for the last 35 years. His mission is helping others take more control of their health and well-being. And he's the creator of Flowing Health, teaching others, teaching groups to rebalance their health. So individuals and groups who love to work with Alessandro. I met him through a networking group I have in the UK. And I'm just super excited to have him here. So welcome, Alessandro.
Thank you, and lovely to be here. And I love your show. I've been following it, or catching up on all the episodes because you go on every week. So you have some really interesting, inspirational guests, all from different backgrounds. And I love that word inclusive because I think that's something that's really needed these days. And just reminds me of the Dalai Lama's quote, kindness is my religion. And I think kindness is where we're all at, and we need much more of that in the world. So thank you for having me on here.
Oh, thank you for being here. Yes, and I love that quote as well. So we have another quote that you brought us. And as you know, if you're a regular listener or viewer, we usually start the show with a quote that's from one of our guests, has suggested something that's impacted their life. And Alessandro's quote is by a Qigong master, a Qigong teacher. It says, remember, always keep a smile in your heart. Remember, always keep a smile in your heart. Why is this quote so special to you, Alessandro?
Yeah, it was a friend of mine, Margaret, when I started Qigong 35 years ago, Margaret Miller. She was a lady, been given 6 months to live, and she started practicing Qigong and lived for 26 years. And we got quite close, and she went to China many years later, met a very well-known Qigong master there. And we'll go into maybe a little bit about what Qigong is, but really it's a very simple energy practice. And she asked him, what's the most important thing about the practice? And that quote was from him. He just said, remember, always keep a smile in your heart. So whether we practice Qigong, whatever we're doing in life, even when we're going through struggles, if we just give a hint of a smile in our heart, even when people listen to this now, even while I'm saying it, suddenly I feel at ease, like, that's nice, you know, and every cell then feels like it's smiling. And when the body is activated like that, then our immune system can function better. Basically, the body is grateful for us reminding the heart, which is the ruler of our emotions, to just smile. Why not, you know, and no matter what's happening, and especially through difficulty. So that quote is so special to me, and I remind myself every day. And so it was handed down to me, and I like to share that.
I love it. I love it. And it's just really beautiful, like keeping a smile in your heart. There's kind of a warmth there. And really, the smile is something that smile in your heart feels like something rooted in our deepest self, or what we were meant to be. You know, whether everything in the world is ideal or not, which it never is, there's sort of that, what is that? It's kind of like ancient wisdom, which obviously Qigong is one of those ancient wisdom teachings. You know, kind of going back to our roots, where we're intended to have that joy. And as our viewers know, for many years, I was teaching very specifically around joy and emotional wellness. So it resonates very well with me, the smile in your heart, because that's kind of where it starts. And that's how you can transform your life, starting right there, which is just beautiful. I'm so glad you shared that. So question for you then, Alessandro. So tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey, or if you want to call it something other than spiritual, just share what that's been like for you in your life and what you've found along the way.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. As you mentioned, I traveled a lot. I mean, my father worked for United Nations, so he was working in Indonesia against malaria. And in the 50s, you know, malaria was all over the world. So he was helping to help eradicate that. So I was born there, but within a year I was in Tanzania, where my brother was born, and you pronounce that very well, the way the British do as well. But at the age of 2, I was in Sardinia in Italy, where my mother was from, for a year. And then age 4 in Belgrade, what was then Yugoslavia, what is now Serbia. And then I came to Turkey, with my first English school. I attended that. And at the age of 9, I came to England to boarding school. So, you know, all those countries as a little child, I visited. I have vague memories of some of them. And boarding school was till the age of 18. Then I went to university here. And I think my journey probably started when I found myself in a church in North London with a Qigong teacher at the time. And there were just 6 of us in this church hall. I'd never heard of Qigong, but I could feel something between my hands. I could feel an energy or something between my hands that I hadn't felt before. And I thought, this is something, you know, I'm just curious. Let me look into this more. And as I spent more time with him, I noticed that I didn't come from ill health, thank goodness, but many people, their health improved. Many people had physical issues, ailments, and they seemed to go away. Many people had emotional issues. They seemed to improve. Some people had very serious diseases, and I won't go into, you know, this. I'm not making claims about cures, but I saw people transform their lives through this practice. And so I just continued on as a study. I just continued studying it. And I realized many years later, maybe after 20, 30 years, that my reason for coming to Qigong was I felt quite disconnected from myself, probably as a result of, you know, being sent away from home at a young age, traveling the world. But I wasn't aware I was disconnected. And I think probably since the pandemic, I think this word has been used a lot more, and a lot more people have been feeling isolated or disconnected. So it's been something that helped me reconnect to myself, come home almost to myself, and feel at ease and more connected to this energy beyond my own that gives me life, which is what the Chinese tradition calls the qi, or the life force. And by connecting, you know, better with myself, then I've been able to maybe help others sense this feeling of connection and support. So in a way that became, there is a spiritual aspect to it. And I know some people have a resistance to the word spiritual, but really, you know, we all have a body and a mind. I think nobody would dispute that. but there is something like a mystery also. There's something given to us and taken away from us. And whether we call it spirit, life force, energy, whatever word we use, there's something like a subtle energy there. And I've been just looking into it. I'm so interested in all spiritual traditions. And to me, they all lead to the same thing, which is bringing us home to ourselves, making us, each one of us, realize that we are unique, that we are connected to something limitless beyond us. And when we do that well, whether it's through our own practice or prayer or maybe even religion, then we're in better shape in life. We're not on earth as individual human beings living by ourselves. That's we are human beings, and I think that's what sort of reminded me that this is how it became a kind of physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual practice. So all those elements came into the practice.
Amazing. So what would you say? I know that you said, beginning that practice changed up your energy and helped you feel more connected, and obviously has a lot of health benefits. What did you feel like it helped or alleviated? In other words, what did you feel before that when you discovered Qigong as your practice, you felt more complete?
Yeah, I felt that I could stop struggling as much in life. I felt I was doing so much myself. I was running, I was trying to keep ahead, I was trying to be better than. And there's a beautiful Qigong expression, which is Wu Wei, which means effortless action. So it's actually doing things, not stopping doing things, but doing things with less effort. And when we connect with something beyond our own energy, then we are empowered and we are given this life force. We're recharged like a mobile phone. Always needs recharging. As humans, we get a bit depleted. Now, if we're working from a depleted state, then life is a bit of a struggle, and we get affected by daily events, by the media, by the news. And I think when I learned to connect to this energy beyond my own, which is for me is a daily practice, then I feel more guided, more inspired, more empowered, more grounded. And in a way, I'm a human between heaven and earth, which is a beautiful Chinese medicine book I've got. As humans, we're just connected to heaven and earth, which is the yang and the yin. We all heard of yin and yang. And as humans, we're just a balance of those two. If we're too much of one, then we can have issues, too much of the other. So life is, as we know, a delicate balance. And Qigong taught me to actually give up struggling, connect to this energy, allow the energy to guide me, inspire me, and keep me healthy. Keep me, if I get ill, thank goodness I've got tools to get well quite quickly. But hopefully, even better than that, is preventing to get ill in the first place. What if many of us could take more control of our health? And I'm not sure about the States so much, but in the UK, we have real trouble with the National Health Service. There are waiting lists of years for issues. So what if we could take better care of our health at home, in the comfort of our home? And that's what I'm helping people also to do, and to inspire them that this is nothing odd. There's a beautiful Chinese term also, which is Zhen Ren, which means a true human being. So Qigong is actually helping us reconnect to the true human being that we are. Many of us are living in ways maybe that aren't fully aligned with, or in accordance with who we are. So if we can become truly connected to who we are, we live, with more joy and more peace, and life seems better and easier.
I love that. I'm writing it down, aligned with who we are. And I loved what you said about giving up the struggle, because I think that's where there's such a deep fight or flight energy that most of us in the Western world are in at almost all the time. except maybe like when you're sitting on the couch watching TV, or and then you're like, oh, I should be doing something else. So there's this ongoing, like everything is a bit of a struggle. You always feel behind. You always feel like you should be pressing on. You always feel like you need to hurry up. And obviously, those who practice meditation and other forms of, personal practice, which we've talked about many times on this show, they find sort of that oasis in their life where they can just be still. And I know that's true for me with meditation, but I also am a very kinesthetic individual. I just experience the world and through all my senses very acutely. So I think bringing that physical part in is a great complement to something like meditation, being very still. And I kind of like this definition. You didn't really say it was the definition of spirituality, but you said energy beyond our own. I love that, because really that is a very powerful definition of what the word spirituality could mean. Energy beyond my own, because we all have to recognize there's energy beyond ourselves. Something's beating our heart. Something's, we have to admit whatever that is to us. And I think there was another phrase you used the other day when we were chatting, another kind of definition of spirituality, which was something that you had, a friend of yours or acquaintance of yours had said about kind of a power in the universe.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it is a natural energy. A good example, Qigong actually is a study of humans and animals and nature. It's maybe 2,000-3,000 years old as a study. So if we look at a tree, for example, how does a tree survive and thrive? It's connected into the earth, so it's absorbing, being nourished by the earth. And also it's connected up to the sky, to the heaven. So it's absorbing the light. And in a way, as humans, as living beings, the tree is a living thing as well. We're just like the tree. Our natural state is that we are on this earth. We're connected to the earth. The sunlight and the breath gives us life. So actually, we are being kept alive by something beyond us. If I had to think about breathing when I'm asleep, I wouldn't be alive, nor would any of us. But we're being breathed by what and by who? And this is the mystery, and science will never explain this. That's what I love about, spirituality, if we use that word, but also just the way life is. Some things cannot be explained and never will be by science. And that's not a bad thing. I think it's good to have mystery. And that's why I use the word about being curious. Like young children are curious. And we know that in a young child's world, everything is possible. As adults, we think we know so much, but we're in trouble. So remaining curious and open. And this example of the tree is for me, it's quite a powerful one. I mean, earlier I was going to see a friend in Wimbledon today, and I was a bit nervous about this show because I'm human, like all of us. And I was thinking, why am I nervous? And I use this acronym ABC: A for awareness, B for breathing, and C for connecting. Mm-hmm. So I immediately just became aware of my state. Then I just breathed more deeply. And then I connected my feet more into the earth as I was walking. And suddenly I was all right. I thought, oh, I'm supported by the earth. I'm breathing. I'm alive. I'm grateful because I'm on this show later. ABC brought me back to my natural state. And one of my favorite quotes ever is Thich Nhat Hanh. You probably know this quote. The miracle is not walking on water. The miracle is walking on the earth. So when I was walking on the earth, that's a miracle. I'm breathing, I'm walking on the earth. I have opportunities like many of us, and so many of us, we all have choices in life, but we tend to feel, like you said earlier, maybe, the media, TV is telling us all these things to do, but ultimately we are in control of our own thoughts and feelings. They're not who we are. So, Qigong has taught me to be aware of those, be the observer of those, and not give them too much power. In the past, I think they had power over me. Of course, sometimes they do. I'm human. I do get, uptight and angry and all this, but I can observe and catch myself with that ABC, the awareness, breathe deeply, feel my feet into the earth. Even now while we're chatting, my feet are deeply rooted into the earth.
That's good. And such a good thing to remember too, just staying connected. And I love what you said about our thoughts and feelings are not who we are. Can you go into that a little bit more? How does that look for you?
Yeah, again, the Dalai Lama, I saw a film about him. I don't think it's been released yet. It's called, I think it's called The Last Dalai Lama, and it was the director of the film. And I went to London to the premiere of it. And he spent like 40 years with the Dalai Lama, spending time with him. I can't remember his name exactly. But he said, the Dalai Lama said, for example, when we're angry, we say, I'm angry, but actually that's not true. If we have a cold, we say, I have a cold. We don't say, I am a cold. And same with anger. I have anger right now, or anger. I'm feeling anger right now. I'm not angry actually, but the English language makes us feel that we are the emotion. Actually, the emotion happens to be passing through. Just as it's passing through like a cloud, it can go off in a minute. And many of us know that. If I think of something, that really made me angry last year, I can be angry in a minute now. But also I can think of something that makes me happy. So we know that the emotions can be created, but just as they can be created, they can be let go of in a very effortless way. Like honor it, not fight it, but allow it to drift off like a cloud. Then the next thing comes. And same with the thoughts. The thoughts are a bit like that. They come and they go, and they come and they go. And if they get stuck, then again, it's up to us to give them space, to allow them to drift off like clouds. And then when the mind slows down, I think that's what you probably notice even in meditation, the thoughts slow down a bit and actually have less of a hold on us as we get into that kind of empty or the gap between the thoughts. And, I've had that experience where the thoughts have completely stopped just for a short time. And that felt quite amazing. So, it's being the observer of the thoughts and the emotions, not the victim of them. And we're human, so it's okay to allow them. In fact, it's really important to allow them. But many people either fight them or they become them. But that's what I meant, to kind of be the observer and honor them and let them go quickly. Like there's a breeze, there's a cloud, it's off, it's gone. Same with the mind. And there's a beautiful Buddhist expression, the mind is limitless as the sky. If we imagine the mind to just be open to the sky, the thoughts are just coming and going and coming and going. It's quite a nice feeling to allow them to drift off.
I love that, because so often we're told, and I understand where this is coming from, but if you can control your thoughts, you can control your emotions. And I always think the challenge of the word in there is control.
Yes.
I think that's where we kind of went spiraling off, because what you're talking about is more of just a state of being, of allowing thoughts to come and go, of not saying, I am my thought or I am my emotion, but I'm observing this thought. I am observing this emotion. I'm experiencing this emotion. I'm not the emotion. I'm experiencing the emotion. And having a little more patience with ourselves. So when you, what do you do when you have, let's say, cyclical thoughts? I can't remember what they're called right now, but anyway, when you obsessively have the same kind of thoughts over and over.
Thoughts or something.
Yes, I know. The phrase just escaped me, but I used to, when I was going through a really tough time in my life, I've shared this before, but after a divorce, and was extraordinarily traumatized for like about a year. And I would just obsessively have these cyclical thoughts, these cycling thoughts over and over and over, like trying to solve a problem. Like the mind would just get so busy, like what went wrong? What could I have done differently? Like obsessing. And the place I would like to think the most would sort of relax, I guess, or where you can't get away from yourself with TV or anything else, is in the shower, typically.
Yeah.
And so I would sit in the shower and I would have these thoughts over and over and over. And I couldn't stop them. Like I couldn't even stop them. And thank God the hot water would run out, because hot water ran out, because I also couldn't physically move. I would be almost petrified. Eventually the hot water would run out and I would get cold, and I would say, okay, well, I guess I have to get out. So when we struggle with those kind of thoughts, or when we struggle with anger, or when we struggle with obsessions around money or problems, what are some tools we could use, or what's one idea you have that you could share with us that can help us kind of find a way of escape from that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's not easy to really answer. But I think a couple of the keys have to be going back to the breath. If I can put my attention on breathing deeply, usually down to the lower abdomen area, in Qigong at least, and in yoga, that's our main energy center. But often the breath is, when we're tense or anxious, it's a bit shallow, and the mind is working a lot. So our energy is a lot up here. If we can bring the energy down to the lower abdomen, bring the energy to the feet, into the earth, and just allow the mind and the thoughts to settle. Sometimes the thoughts, like you say, they're just going round in circles. So if the mind can be put on something else, like the breath, or a practice, say like Qigong, or even moving the body, dancing, if we can embody the energy, the body can release that energy. Often the energy is stuck in the body. So even though the mind is thinking it, the body is holding it. And many of us know, there's that great book, The Body Keeps the Score. The body does actually hold in a lot of stress and trauma. So one of the Qigong things is, for example, just shaking out, getting into the body and shaking out the stress. And now there's that great new scientifically proven practice called TRE, trauma release exercises, which are literally shaking. But Qigong's been using that for thousands of years. So I think get into the body, could be dance, could be shaking, could be releasing, get into the breath. And the other thing is, I think, as important, is get into the heart. In the Qigong tradition, the mind is in the heart. In the West, we think, I'm going to work this out in my thoughts, in my mind. Actually, the mind is very limited. Like you said earlier, the mind is fight or flight. The mind keeps us safe. The mind is very useful as a protector, but not as a guide, I would say. But if the mind is in the heart and I can get into my heart, and science has now proven the heart has actually more receptors than the brain. It's not just pumping blood, and there's a lot of research around this, so people can look it up. The Institute of Heart Math in California, they do a lot of study around the heart, and they say the heart is the organ of truth. The mind is not. The mind is playing games, it's belief systems, it's just running us ragged, we would say. So what if we could breathe more deeply, do some movement, might be some shaking, but actually get into the heart and really connect with our hearts. And in Qigong, we do quite a lot of practice around, opening the heart and releasing, a lot of sadness. Often emotions are held in the heart. But going back to some of the other emotions, for example, like anger, depression, that's in the liver in Chinese medicine, for instance. So in Qigong terms, when we do a good Qigong practice, we're actually purifying our energy system. We're also healing the internal organs. The organs relate to the emotions. So often we're actually addressing the emotions, getting out of the mind. And I think that's the key, is actually not give in to the mind, but allow ourselves to movement, breath work, and get into the heart in whatever way we can.
I love that. And even as you were, and my allergies are bothering me, so you'll have to bear with me. Beautiful springtime, right? Even as you were saying that about, moving the energy in your body from the mind, and I would say for myself also here.
Yes.
There's a lot of tension and pressure here. There's a lot of, supposed psychological reasons for that, but also bringing it down. And as you were saying that, I actually did bring it down, and I did feel the energy transition into my abdomen and then into my legs and into my feet. And when I've done that now and in the past, I feel a real shift. Often I feel very emotional. The same with the shaking, whether it's just kind of shaking it out, like shaking it off, or TRE, that sense of when you kind of give up this obsessive mental control, and you're really connecting with who you really are. It's a very emotional experience, at least for me, often. It's a kind of a huge relief, a release. It's like, oh my gosh, I get to have a break. and something more, even more nurturing and healing. Something about, and I think that's how maybe in layman's terms I would define grounding, is a sense that it's all going to be okay. And when I get that sensation, then often it makes me very emotional. And I'll add on, so I'm emotional well-being, of course, but letting the emotion out is also so useful and helpful, right? Because part of, I think, what gets us so stuck is the cramping in, the not allowing of ourselves to emotionally experience what we're going through. We just resist, push it away, push it away, push it away. When you get grounded, when you move that energy down, it frees up the space for you to experience those emotions. Sometimes I've cried, sometimes I'll beat a pillow, sometimes I'll go for a run, but it gets loosened up, that energy gets loosened up, and then it can be processed and expelled. So is that something also that Qigong can help us do?
Yeah, definitely. I think you made some great points there, and we do need to allow ourselves, if you have the emotions, nothing wrong with that, to express. I think it's when we hold it in, we think, oh, I can't show, that I'm sad or crying, but actually we need to welcome those, because the body knows what to do. We need to trust the body and follow it. What often happens in Qigong is we have spontaneous practice where when we connect and let go of holding on, then the energy often moves us and allows the body to open and express in whatever way. And for some people, and I've seen it, for some people it's in sounds, they let out sounds. For some people it's tears. For some people it's movements, breath work. So we're all different, and but actually the energy beyond us is what sorts it out. So it's giving it over to that I think that's the key for me, is to just give it up. I can't do it by myself. I don't want to do it by myself. I think for my almost my whole life, especially boarding school, all these things I had to do for myself, protect myself, not show the emotions because the other boys would make fun of me. So, as I got older, I realized actually I need to honor, this. And then what's even beautiful beyond that is I can give it up to this energy beyond my own. And one of the things I often do is, you heard of the Tao Te Ching? I'm sure you have the book. Yeah. So there's a beautiful chapter here about this energy. What do we give it up to? Because it sounds very, very vague. And I think whatever practice people have, sometimes, if people are religious, give it up to God. If they are, spiritual, give it up to something beyond. What is that energy or life force that keeps us alive? And it's hard to name it. When we give it a name, that's what I love about Taoism. They say the minute you name it, that's not what it is, because a word can't encapsulate it. So some of the expressions I quite like. What do you give it up to? So Carl Jung would say universal consciousness. That's quite a nice word. Deepak Chopra talks about the field of all possibilities. Oprah talks about all that is with a capital A, and that's quite a nice way of saying God or something beyond us. Infinite consciousness, limitlessness, beingness, all these beautiful words. But I just want to read something from the Tao Te Ching. When I read these chapters, which are 2,500 years old, this wisdom actually is what inspires me these days, because it's still valid. It's not that in modern times, I mean, look at, where progress has taken us, with the environment, with wars. I mean, we're in trouble as humans, so for me, ancient wisdom is often one of the keys to remind myself, what is it that I need to connect to? How can I put words to it? So
amazing. Before you read that, just as a quick aside, for all of those of you who are tuned in, watching or listening, if you are watching on one of the platforms, you can send Alessandro a question or comment right now. We still have a few more minutes. So if you would have anything at all that you'd like to ask him or myself, feel free to do that. So, Alessandro, you were talking about, how much that ancient wisdom means to you and gives you that kind of grounding that you're looking for. And you were going to read us this quote.
Yeah, and just to say, before I started Qigong 35 years ago. But before I started, I bought this black and white copy of the Tao Te Ching. I don't know if you can you see it there?
Can't, but yeah.
Okay, but anyway, I bought a copy of this book, and I used to read one chapter a night and have no idea what it was talking about. but I felt at ease. I thought, I don't know what this is, but it's quite interesting. And then when I started practicing Qigong, everything became, not everything, but I really understood so much of this. And one of the things that really gets me now is to remind myself, how little I know. The older I get, it's almost like being more and more curious, being more. And when I feel more and more connected, and I feel more and more supported. So rather than being more in control, like you said earlier, I think control is trouble. How about letting go of the control, which can be a bit frightening, but I would recommend to everybody, just try it out and see what happens, to just let go of that. But let me just read this, how they describe what is this energy, and what is this that gives us life, that keeps us inspired. So this is chapter 25. If people look at the Tao Te Ching, something mysteriously formed, born before heaven and earth, in the silence and the void, standing alone and unchanging, ever present and in motion. Perhaps it is the mother of 10,000 things. I do not know its name. Call it Tao. For lack of a better word, I call it great. Being great, it flows far away. Having gone far, it returns. Man follows earth follows heaven. Heaven follows the Tao. Tao follows what is natural. Of course, man follows the earth, could be woman, could be, in those days. But this thing that this is a natural, something existed before I did, before we all did. Nobody can dispute that, whether we're spiritual or not. Something existed before the universe. And that's what we're connecting to. We're reconnecting to that. And when I'm here right now, I was given life by this something. Let's call it this Tao, or mysterious energy. And one day I'll go back to that. So actually, even life and death are just two sides of the same coin. It's no big deal. But, we tend to look at it as such a dramatic thing. And maybe as I'm getting closer to the second half of my life, I've kind of let go of that fear, because it's just a cycle. I don't see anything as beginning or ending, and that's quite a comforting thing. And I get that a lot from this wisdom. So ancient wisdom, I would highly recommend.
That's amazing, and I know I enjoy reading many of the ancient writings, and I think there's so many different ones, and each one has something very beautiful to take away. Maybe it doesn't all resonate with me, but finding those pieces that really do is very calming as well. So I love that. Wow, this has gone so fast, but I just wanted to keep talking about Qigong and just how that has changed your experience and how it can help others. I feel like you were able to share so many useful things with us today. And I did some Qigong right before this show, because I knew it was coming up and I had my own nerves, right? And a couple weeks ago, I did a full session of Qigong with Alessandro. It was absolutely amazing. And it was my first real in-depth experience with Qigong. I'd had, a few minutes here or there as, say, maybe part of some other program, but I hadn't really kind of taken the time and just now beginning to understand it. So I also wanted to share that with all of you. And Alessandro has been so generous to do that. Any last words, Alessandro, for our listeners, if you could leave them with something today?
No, yeah, I'd always recommend that just people really take time for self-care, to pause, to become more aware, breathe, and connect in whichever way is possible. It might be connecting with other people, but ideally, when we connect more deeply with ourselves, to find a way to really empower ourselves. And when we connect more deeply with ourselves, we connect more deeply with others, with the world around us, and everybody benefits. And I think we're at a time in the world where we could all, do a lot more for ourselves. I think, life, the way life is set up is we're made to believe that, external things will make us happy, fulfilled, but we all know that's not true. I know so many, I know the Dalai Lama knows a lot more millionaires than I do. And he said, so many of them are really miserable, and, money can't buy, peace of mind. So it's all, inside of us. So to find a way, whether it's spending more time in nature, whether it's, joining an inspiring group, whether it's reading some ancient wisdom, but actually finding our own way to reconnect with ourselves, with our hearts rather than our minds, and realize that the mind is a very useful tool, but it's not in control, and nor are the emotions. And that's for me, that's one of the biggest realizations, to be aware of them, but not be a victim of them, which I think for most of my life, I have been struggling, I'll be honest with that. But now I can find it easier to observe. And when I do my practice, I definitely feel the support and the connection. And I love this show where it's helping everybody, this inclusivity and bringing people from all walks of life together and sharing our own experiences.
Oh, thank you so much, Alessandro. I just feel calmer just being in this space with you today. I feel good. I feel calmer already. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. For all of you, you can find out more about Alessandro on the links you see on your screen, or you can look in the notes, and feel free to reach out to him anytime. I'm sure he would love to get back to you. And I want to thank you all again today for joining our show here on I'm Spiritual But. And I didn't want to leave out the phrase and the title that Alessandro shared with us, which is I'm spiritual, but I'm curious, respectful, and aware. And I just think that was so appropriate. An extension of that conversation. I'm spiritual, but I'm curious, respectful, and aware. If we could all be a little more curious, respectful, and aware, how much more could we relate to those around us? How much more could we relate to others in the world, and find the things that we have in common, which is our need for spirituality and other things, finding those things we need in common, and relating to each other from the heart and soul as human beings that way, instead of always focusing on the angry things that make us different, or whatever those things that set us apart. So
one more final quote is one of my favorites from Ram Dass. We're all just walking each other home.
I love that. Oh, I do. I really love that one. We're all just walking each other home. Oh, it's so epitomizes just
no matter
everything.
Where we are, we're all in this together, we're just
Yeah.
one energy, one love. We're just walking each other home. So let's do it nicely. Why not?
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you all for joining us here today. Please do like and subscribe here on USA Global Network, or on whatever platform you are listening. And yes, please check out more on the website, imspiritualbut.com, and my website, Scottlin.com. We really appreciate you being here, and hope we'll see you live next week at Wednesdays at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Until then, be well as we all walk each other home. Thank you, Alessandro.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.